All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start these slides. Like I said, a couple of marketing slides because that's what the marketing team likes us to do. So with that, so this is the fall series webinar. We're going to do a couple more of these. So Stratodesk overview, right? #1 VDI cloud and IoT endpoint management company, founded in 2010 in San Francisco. We have offices in the United States and Europe, a couple of sales engineers, support teams, salespeople, et cetera, all the things you would expect to have along the way. We have over 4,000 customers, 400,000 software licenses installed, technology partners, resellers, all the things you would expect for a technology company. And so, to be able to reach out to us, et cetera, obviously the standard channels are available, and obviously you can reach directly to us. With our products, we have what's called the NoTouch Desktop. We have NoTouch OS, NoTouch Center, NoTouch Cloud. You get the theme here, right? And the NoTouch Cloud extension is actually something new we just came out with a week ago, and we'll talk about that just a little bit. The NoTouch Cloud, so that's the ability to have the NoTouch management piece in the cloud. And then, of course, NoTouch IoT, with us being a platform management company, obviously we're now able to extend our management platform beyond just doing VDI type devices to where we can actually do cloud type or IoT type devices. And you'll see that a little bit too. Industry impact, right? Obviously, we got government, healthcare, education, banks, finance, retail, all the sectors that you would expect, anywhere that you would see typical VDI, whether that be VMware, Citrix, or RDS services, right? So these are our different technology partners, all the, the logo slides that you would expect to see, all of our just different customers and partners, et cetera. Obviously Citrix, Cisco, ThinPrint, Liquidware, all the, obviously direct and important customers to us, right? Partners. Another slide, again, this is some customers, because people like to see who some of our customers are. And then, so that's the thank you slide. And here, give me a minute to switch some screens, and we'll go ahead and we'll get started with it. Because I assume that's what you guys are all here to see anyways. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and drag this screen over. All right, so here you can see what I am connected to. I'm connected to my demo instance that's actually in the cloud, and this is the NoTouch Center virtual appliance. This is the virtual appliance that you can download from our website. And just to differentiate the two pieces, right, it's one appliance, but within the appliance, you obviously get a configuration panel to be able to manage and control the appliance itself. And then once the appliance is stood up and running, obviously you have the ability to connect to NoTouch Center, which is the interface for then managing the endpoint devices, whether they be IoT type devices or the VDI type devices. So all the things you would expect to be able to do with an appliance, I'm sure everybody's gotten used to standing up appliance, whether it be in Hyper-V, ESX, whatever your hypervisor of choice is. And it's a relatively small and lightweight one. And once you stand that up, then obviously the multiple things that you can do with the appliance, like you can import images. These are the desktop images that you can import into the appliance to be able to push out and deliver out to the endpoint devices. And you control how you want to be able to push those things out. Then, of course, there's the different management components for the virtual appliance, system information about the virtual appliance. So this gives you all the version information, how much disk space, all those types of things that they're using. And if this was an on-prem instance as well, you'd see the PXE configuration where you can go ahead and configure NoTouch Center to be a PXE server because, of course, the PXE server is included in NoTouch. And that way, if you're doing a live boot or a live boot install, you can go ahead and use the PXE services. The system logs, again, these are all the typical things you would expect to see out of an appliance. Maintenance, so you can do the updates, you can do the backups, all the things that you would expect to be able to do at an appliance. You can set the password, et cetera, all the things you would want to do to a standard appliance and for, any type of an environment for what you're doing, okay? So there's not a whole lot to the appliance itself. It's like I said, it's a lightweight Linux appliance that you can stand up on any hypervisor, and realistically, you can probably have it up and running in about 5 minutes. One of the key things, though, that I like to point out to people with the appliance, and something that you'll definitely want to do in your environment, is by default, the NoTouch Center appliance comes with a default host name of TCMGR. Think of that as like Thin Client Manager, right? So if you set up a DNS A record for TCMGR, anything that is running NoTouch OS by default will try to resolve that DNS name. And if it can resolve TCMGR, those devices will automatically check into your NoTouch Center so that you'll be able to manage those devices. And that's really important because I'll show you in just a few minutes where you can configure that. If you've got it set up where the devices can automatically resolve TCMGR and you can set up automatic assignment rules, you can literally set your infrastructure and your environment up so that the devices, you can take a device out of the box or an OS, install it on a machine, and at first boot, it would be able to resolve TCMGR, automatically check into NoTouch Center, and then basically automatically self-profile or provision itself so that it becomes a hands-off environment, okay? So with that, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into NoTouch Center. And then once you're into NoTouch Center, this is the interface that's going to come up. And of course, this is the standard landing panel, right? It gives you an idea of, how many devices you have in the environment, how many different OS images you have, how many connected devices, how many devices are online, all the things you would want to see at a first glance landing panel, and all that information is here for you. Then, of course, once you can go into the resources. And the nice thing about this is where you get to look again, like I spoke about earlier, where the different images, these are the different images that you can apply and how many devices have those images, et cetera. What's really nice is you can drag and drop your certificates in here so that it makes certificate management for your endpoint devices really simple. So if you have certificates that you need to be able to get out to your environment for, obviously, your secure connections, you can just drag and drop your certificates right in here, and those certificates would be made available to all the endpoints and automatically deploy those certificates. Same with wallpapers. Again, the same type of thing, just drag and drop the wallpapers in there. Miscellaneous files, such that if you were running event scripts, like let's say you potentially have a piece of code or an application that you want to load and run it real time, you could actually go ahead and put that information there and create an event script and allow that application to run it real time. So depending on what it is. Then going down through the tree, and I'm not going to go through all the things in here because obviously you could get very lengthy and very detailed and granular. But the important things is obviously here's the URL that my devices are being used or my endpoints are being used to manage. The announcement logs when the devices are checking in, so I can tell how many devices checked in, when was the last time, et cetera, in case you wanted to know a specific device when it reported or when it was last checked in. MKey is, the important thing about what MKey is when a device first makes contact with NoTouch Center, what it does is it establishes a unique token between the endpoint and NoTouch Center, and the purpose of that is to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks, such that if a device comes into NoTouch Center and it has not been assigned a profile or has been assigned a profile and the token doesn't match, NoTouch will recognize the device, but it will not profile it. And so I like to point it out because as administrators and people that are using the system, usually in proof of concept type of environments, you'll end up probably doing a factory reset on the device at some point just because you want to see if it'll auto profile, et cetera, by itself. So if you do have a device in the environment and you end up doing a factory reset on it, you'll have to make sure that you do an MKey reset to allow that device to go ahead and be managed again. This next piece to identify, this is a really, really nice feature for the help desk types of people, where often as the help desk or support individuals will have somebody on the phone, and the typical question of who are you, where are you, what device are you on, what's your IP address, what's your MAC address, all those things that you'd have to ask to be able to identify who that user is or where that user is to be able to assist them. What Identify allows you to do, NoTouch OS, that being the software that goes on the endpoints, has several hotkey sequences. And those hotkey sequences are available. Somebody's picking up some extra noise, so I'm going to go ahead and mute that. All right. So anyways, NoTouch OS has several hotkey sequences that allows you to do multiple things. Like you can do a Control-Alt-W, and that'll pop open the wireless configuration panel on the endpoint device. But the reason I bring it up here under the Identify is if you, on the endpoint device, if you press Control-Alt-I, the device will automatically identify itself to NoTouch Center, and it'll show up and it'll appear right here. So effectively think of that as the end user or the endpoint device raising its hand to let you as the support person or the administrator to be able to identify that device quickly and be able to help or assist that person. Okay, so that's what Identify is for you. And then once you go into the different devices, the different groups, et cetera, you can obviously go through And I'm going to expand some of this so that we can actually see. So on the left-hand side of the tree, this is where, of course, the devices will appear, so you can go ahead and provision them, profile them, etc. And as I mentioned earlier, the devices, if they can automatically resolve, or if they can resolve TCMGR, by default, they will announce themselves to NoTouch Center. And when they announce themselves, by default, they will go into this group called unassigned. It's really nice. You can automatically discover your devices. You know that they're out there. But realistically, nobody's going to want to sit here and watch this all day long to see what devices are discovering, what devices are showing up, etc., right? So what you'll want to do is you'll be able to go into the group settings, or the different groups, and you see here, here's all the different pieces of information. But what's really nice here is this feature called automatic assignment. And by default, automatic assignment is turned on, and you can set up automatic assignment based on all of these different parameters. So as an example, you could go in, you could say, I want to set up an automatic assignment policy that says anything that comes in at, this IP address schema, I want those devices to automatically identify themselves and automatically move into a group. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because I don't want that to occur in my lab, or currently, given the fact that we're doing a demo. But if I had that set up and a device was booted out of the box, or a fresh install, was able to resolve TCMGR with that IP schema, obviously, again, it would automatically recognize itself a report or announce itself to NoTouch Center. And then based on that automatic assignment policy, it would assign that device to the My Clients group. Once that device gets assigned to the My Clients group, it would then automatically provision or apply policy to anything that I have set in this environment that you see on the screen. Now, what a lot of people ask, or that a lot of people talk about, is that there's a lot of different checkboxes and a lot of different options in here. It somewhat can seem a little bit overwhelming, but it's not, and it's one of those things you get used to it very quickly. And I'm not going to go through each and every one of the different pieces, right? Obviously, you can control the administration portions, the audio settings, the display settings, the drive settings, all the things you would expect to be able to do, right? Including you can configure wireless LAN, you can set up your time services, you can set up security, all the things that you'd want to be able to do. The other thing that I like to point out to people regarding this, as far as the way this works out, is this is an inherited hierarchical infrastructure, meaning anything that is unchecked here is either default or inherited from the tree above, okay? So you'll find as we go down through this, and what I'll do is I'll do this in a couple of minutes, I'll choose a specific device and I'll set a specific setting, and you'll see where that setting is applied directly to that individual device. There will be a checkbox, okay? And it's really nice because when you go through and you start looking at different things and looking at devices, in fact, here, I'll go ahead and select this device. And if there was something specifically set on this individual device, whether it be a profile setting, or in fact, let's go for this device, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to services so that you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and make a change. And let's see, what do we want to do? We'll say the SSH start service, we want to go ahead and leave that on. Well, I'll just go ahead and click print mode, okay? And you see that that setting has already been saved. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and be able to identify what has been set or changed on that device, I can go ahead and go over to changed, and I can see what parameters have been changed specifically on that device, okay? So it gives you the ability to have a quick glance to be able to identify what has been changed within that device. Now, while I'm here, the other thing I should go ahead and point out as well is you can see up here, I can see that this device is on. I can see it's been natted because obviously it's got a 172 address, and I can see how it's reporting. And next to that, you'll see that there's this little lockbox. And this is one of the things that we've changed recently with the 4.3 versions of NoTouch Center. So we used to have the ability to, once you made a change, you would go ahead and in the bottom right, if you've used Stratodesk NoTouch Center before, you probably used a scene where there was a save or save and announce dialog box down here. We've done away with that, and all of these settings or parameters now are automatically saved once you change them, and they are actually locked for 2 minutes to prevent you from accidentally pushing a configuration out to the device. Okay, so you could go ahead and lock the parameters, you can unlock the parameters, etc., if that's something you wanted to do. Excuse me. Now, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the My Clients group. And under group settings, you can see all the different things that you can do within this parameter or within the settings. And you see here, I've got a demo, I've got a Citrix, and I've got an RDP connection. And so what I can do is now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go ahead and say create a new connection. And we'll just call this one VMware or VMW, right? Because I don't want to leave VMware out. We'll go ahead and say create a new connection. And you see that that connection is already applied to my clients. And if I went down through and click, you'll see that that's going to be inherited down through. So then I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose connection mode. And then with that, that pops down all the different connection types that you can choose within the environment, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and we'll go find Horizon. And we're going to say that we're going to create that connection right there. And then, of course, I could go ahead and I could put in my target URL for my desktops or my VDI, wherever that I wanted to be able to connect to. And of course, like I said, you know, it's important to note here that all of the different connection types, whether they be a browser, whether they be Citrix, whether it be a Spice connection, all those types of connections are available to you to be able to provision and push out to the endpoint devices. Okay, and as I mentioned, you see now that these things have been set, they are set at this specific level. Okay, and then of course you could go ahead and go into the more detailed connections regarding that type of connection, whether they be specific things for USB redirection, whether they be audio policies, all of those kinds of things that you want to be able to push out as part of the policies and profiles. Okay. Again, so in this case, I've got a group called desktops, and in here I've got the group settings, and you know, you can see the different devices that are here. I've got apps, I've got Pi devices, I've got standard desktop type devices, and as I mentioned really early in this presentation, you know, we have IoT type devices, and this is actually a device that's in my environment that's called an IoT gateway. It gives us the ability to be able to manage gateway or IoT type devices in the environment as well. That's the really nice thing about NoTouch Center. It's a really robust management platform. So as long as we can get NoTouch OS on that endpoint device, we can go ahead and manage it regardless whether it's a client VDI type thing or if it's an IoT type of thing. Like I said, and you can see here, when I created that connection under my clients, that's already gone ahead and it's propagated, again, the inheritance aspect of this, it's already propagated down to that device, okay? So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick this device, and just to show you that it's actually, you know, done what it's supposed to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the right-hand side here, and I'm going to go ahead and you see the different options, the different things that I can do with that individual device, whether I could say I want to do an announcement to it, or I want to do a web access. So I can actually do a web access connection out to that endpoint device. So I would be able to see the end user configuration panel just as if I was sitting at the keyboard, just like the user would. And of course, this looks like a typical demo. Is it actually going to happen? Hopefully it will. There we go. All right, we'll go ahead and connect it, and I'm going to say proceed, and that page just died. This is how demos work. So let's try it and reload that. All right, we'll pick another device. So anyways, this is how demos go, right? You get used to doing these things. So hopefully we'll get connected to the web page. But like I said, what this would do is this would allow the administrator from the NoTouch Center to be able to go ahead and connect to the web services configuration panel and the endpoint device. There we go. We got into this one. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. And again, this is the configuration panel that you would see if you were directly sitting on the keyboard and mouse of the device. And of course, you can see that the parameters that you'd be able to set up with this device are the same parameters pretty much that are within the NoTouch Center. So everything that you can configure on the endpoint device can be configured within the NoTouch Center itself as well, okay? So, and it's probably important to note out, I should actually give you a little bit of geographical relationship of how this demo is set up today. So I'm actually in the California office today. This NoTouch Cloud instance is actually, I believe it's in the AWS cloud in the Ohio area, and all of my endpoint devices are actually located in Tennessee. So as you can see, this is a truly scalable environment that you can have across the spectrum of where your devices are, whether they're located on premises, off premises, home users, all of those types of things, to have the full scalability to be able to manage and control all of those devices. So it's nice that I can get into the control panel and I configure the device, but what if I actually need to be able to assist that user? So again, looking at the different options that are up through here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select shadow, and God willing, things go out the way they're supposed to, I should be able to remote shadow right directly into this device. And even though this device is NATed behind a network, obviously, in Tennessee, boom, I'm going to be able to connect and see exactly what's on the desktop. Okay, so I can see those connections, I can see those parameters. You see it just did a refresh, and that VMware connection that I just created just a few moments ago has already appeared on that device. Okay, so you have complete control of the devices in the environment. You can set all of the different parameters, all the different specifications, whether they be wireless connections, whether they be time settings, whether they simply be connections, target URLs, all of the things from an administrative perspective that you want to be able to do, you can do from a central location, having cloud access or on-premises access as the administrator, as well as, and I should have mentioned this earlier too, one of the things as an administrator people ask is, can we have multiple users have access to the NoTouch Center? In other words, like let's say I'm the master system administrator for NoTouch Center, but I want to be able to create roles and groups for people that would be in the help desk. And yes, so we do support LDAP connections to be able to create different roles and profiles for you to be able to set that up for the help desk people and control what they have access and profiles to.